Hi, this is Ellen from the Chili Dog. Today I'm casting on a pair of Birch Grove socks, and I'd like to teach you how to do Judy's Magic cast on. This cast on works well for socks that are knit from the toe up, bags worked from the bottom up, and mittens or hats that are knit from the top down. Stitches are cast on onto 2 parallel needles and then worked in the round. And the result is a very, very tidy cast on, and the stitches just magically disappear into your work. So to do Judy's Magic cast on, you'll need either 2 DPNs or a set of circular needles, depending on how you like to knit in the round. So let's get started. One nice thing about Judy's Magic cast on is that you don't need a slip knot in your yarn to begin. Hold your 2 knitting needles parallel to each other with the tips pointing towards the left. If you were using circular needles at this point, your cord end would be over here to the right. And we'll be casting on stitches from right to left and alternating 1 stitch on the back needle and then 1 stitch on the front needle. To begin, you're going to pinch your yarn in between the 2 needles. And you want to set it up so that the yarn tail is hanging down here underneath the needles and the working yarn is coming up between the 2 needles. Let the working yarn fall over that back needle and then bring the yarn tail to the back and the working yarn to the front underneath your needles. And you'll notice that the yarn tail is on the left and the working yarn is towards the right. So now you're going to set up your yarn in the slingshot position. You want the yarn tail to come up over your index finger and the working yarn to go over your thumb. And it's helpful sometimes to just hold this stitch that's on your needle now in place with your other thumb. And you can see that we have 1 stitch cast on that back needle. So to cast on the rest of our stitches, you begin by bringing the yarn tail forward and over just the front needle and then down between the 2 needles, and now we have 2 stitches. Then the working yarn comes up between the 2 needles and over the back needle. The yarn tail forward and over the front needle. Working yarn up between the 2 needles and over the back needle. And the yarn tail forward and over the front needle. And you just continue in this manner until you have all your stitches cast on. And it's very important that you end up with the same number of stitches on both your front and your back needles. So the last stitch you cast on will be over the front needle. So I need 10 stitches on each needle, 20 stitches total, so I'm going to count real quick and make sure that I have enough cast on. After all your stitches are cast on, you can begin knitting in the round. And the first stitch you knit will be into the last stitch you cast on, so for me it's this blue stitch here on the end. Rotate your needles so they're pointing towards the right, and make sure you don't turn your work over. You don't want to see any stitches that look like they're purled stitches. If you do, it means you're on the wrong side. And I'm going to flip my work over just so you can see what I mean. On the wrong side, you can see here it looks like all those stitches have been purled. And that's not what we want. So I'm going to turn my stitch back over so that the right side is facing. And if you're working on double pointed needles, it can be helpful in this first round to actually divide your work onto your 3 or 4 double points as you work. So you work across first these stitches and then rotate and then back across these. And to set things up here, before you start knitting, bring your working yarn forward and around this yarn tail, and that helps secure the yarn tail in place, both so it's out of the way while you're knitting and so that it doesn't come unraveled later. And then knit that first stitch. And as you're working this first round, you'll notice, especially if you're on double points, it is very, very tight and it feels kind of awkward to knit. And it gets easier as you get to the second round. It's just that first round that you're kind of setting things up that it's going to feel kind of awkward. I hope you enjoyed learning how to do Judy's Magic Cast On. If you did, make sure to give this video a thumbs up and share it with your friends. Until next time, happy knitting!